Mel, it goes without saying, but this week, I mean, we are still mourning the loss of Chadwick Boseman after his private battle with colon
Mhm.
cancer. And now we are hearing from members of those closest to Chadwick in his inner circle who were aware of his health struggles at the time. They're opening up about his decision to keep his cancer battle quiet. Chadwick's agent Michael Green told The Hollywood Reporter that the actor kept his cancer a secret partly due to his mother Carolyn's influence. His agent said, quote, she always
Mhm.
taught him not to have people fuss over him. He always felt in this business that people trip out about things, and he was a very, very private person. Meanwhile,
Mm.
a source told THR that the 43-year-old actor was convinced until about a week before his death that he was going to beat cancer. Not only that he was going to beat cancer, but that he was going to return to film the Black Panther sequel that was scheduled to go into production in March.
Which is just, I mean, hearing that, it's just hard to digest. He was a fighter
Mhm.
and he thought that he was going to make it through this thing. Disney sources also tell the
Right.
Hollywood Reporter that the company is processing its grief and that its focus at this stage is to pay tribute to Chadwick and not on the making of the Black Panther sequel. And I think that that is a lot of
Mhm.
people's focus. I know fans are super sensitive about the whole recasting situation. So I just want to mention this tweet from Jamil Hill, sports anchor and political analyst.
Mhm.
It's about 3 tweets, so just bear with me. But I think she gives a pretty good perspective on when this conversation starts when it comes to recasting, how we should look at the
Mm.
situation. She says Black Panther isn't just a character, it's an ideal. This role needs to live on so that Black people, children in particular, can see themselves as powerful. So many of our dreams die. We can't let a Black superhero be one of them. She goes on to say that Black Panther was too necessary to the culture. We knew it was important, which is why we celebrated it the way we did. That celebration shouldn't stop, and I don't think Chadwick would want it
Mhm.
to. The best way to honor his legacy is for it to continue. She ended off saying that Batman is an ideal, which is why it lives. And a Black superhero needs to be eternal too. And that really got me thinking, Denny, that, for the children in the world, the Black boys, and specifically the
Mhm.
Black girls, I think, as once again, when the time is right, because it is a very sensitive moment right now, that they should consider passing T'Challa's mantle on to his on screen sister, Shuri, played by Letitia Wright, for the
Mm.
future Black Panther and MCU films. In the comics, she eventually succeeds her older brother and becomes the Black Panther
Wow.
and ruler of Wakanda in her own right. And I know that this is probably the last
Mhm.
thing on Letitia's mind. I'm sure it is. But if we are going to have this conversation, I think it's an option they definitely can consider. It's turning a
Yeah.
devastating loss into something that can move us forward even more when it comes to Black characters in the superhero space. You now have, if this was to be the case, hypothetically, it will be a Black female superhero taking on this role, which is
Yeah.
just speaks to the domino effect of Chadwick's legacy. It just speaks to how he can leave this
Uh-huh.
earth and continue to transform the world in a number of ways. So I know this is a sensitive subject. I keep saying that because
Yeah.
people are feeling it. But if
Well,
we are going to have this
they're
conversation, we should
yeah.
consider that.
They're also really feeling it because you have to realize that so many people in his Marvel family and certainly his Black Panther family probably didn't even know that he was sick to begin with, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously that he was battling colon cancer for 4 years, and so I think they're not only still grieving his loss but processing all of that, like how he
We
left this
are.
earth, you know. And
Yes.
so I think it's a good and bold move on Disney and Marvel's part to hit pause and just focus on literally just paying tribute to Chadwick, but knowing that, obviously he was apparently set to prepare for the movie in September, and there
Mm.
were plans for this to go back into production in March, so I think, soon they will have to figure out what's the best way to honor his legacy but also fulfill this, promise of more Black storytelling in a
Right.
superhero movie in big budgets in big
Right.
budgets like Marvel films, So there's almost a responsibility, and it's something that I know from E.T. talking with Chadwick and the rest of the cast, and even director Ryan Coogler. They were setting out
Mm-hmm.
to make this and to send a message, but also to inspire so many young kids who've never seen themselves as a superhero on
Right.
screen. So there, like I said, there's a responsibility, I think, to continue telling this story. It's something that Jameel Hill also tweeted about, how they tell it, who they tell it with, whether or not they recast
Yeah.
Black Panther, or maybe, as you suggested, have Shuri take over, is unclear. But how special is it that Chadwick got to be a part of a film and a role that has inspired so many, many people?
Yeah, and I mean he continues to inspire. That just speaks to his
Yeah.
life, and where he's come
Hmm.
from and the people who have supported him in his career. It's bigger than him, and his life has been bigger than him, and we see that effect right now.
In fact, we're seeing it in his hometown too, of Anderson, South Carolina. Tonight they're paying tribute to their hometown hero with prayer, with a screening of Black Panther. The mayor is going to address the community as well. A community which, by the way, is also currently petitioning to replace a
Mhm.
Confederate monument downtown in Anderson with a statue of Chadwick Boseman. TMZ, or excuse me, the Change.org petition has nearly 54,000 signatures. I think their goal is 75,000. And this is what you do for someone who has meant so much to the community, because as we've started to learn, that Chadwick has continuously paid it forward to where he's from, to his hometown.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? About maybe erecting some kind of monument or a statue in Chadwick's honor, at least in his hometown?
Yeah, I for sure. I think the reality of, replacing the Confederate monument, it's kind of touchy because we have seen that struggle. People have been fighting for that for so long.
Hmm.
But even if that is not the case, even if it's not a monument to replace it, I definitely think they're going to do something to honor him. In general, the
Hmm.
spokesperson for the mayor of Anderson said that they are enthusiastically working on a permanent public tribute to honor the late actor. And they're told that we've been told that they've contacted artists and they're brainstorming ideas on the best way to honor him in his hometown. And the statue will include a mix of sculpture with mural and other art elements. I think that this is super important, not only to honor his life, but it speaks to the city of Anderson, the town of Anderson. This is a
Absolutely.
community that played a huge part in producing the man who Chadwick was, and his life says a lot
Hmm.
about this community. So I think that this will be smart not only for fans and people that loved this man, but it also will be good for Anderson, the city. Chadwick is all about giving
Right.
back and taking care of the people, the small businesses and the young artists in the community. This
Hmm.
brings more attention to that city, more tourists to that city, because people
Absolutely.
are going to come out in flocks. So I think it will be a smart move on their part.